People always think when I have money, all my problems will go away. It's like, no, you actually have the capacity now to take on bigger problems.
Yeah.
That it's not so much now that it's my problem, it's that I can transfer all that energy that used to be tied up with sorting out my problems to sorting out bigger problems.
The greater
What
good.
people's, yes, for the greater good,
Hmm.
problems that need to be solved in the world.
Hello, friend. Give yourself a moment to arrive. You can let your body settle. You can let your breath soften. You don't have to reach for anything right now. You already know so much of what we're about to talk about. You've felt it, you've touched it in your own life. This conversation is here to open you or remind you of something you may have forgotten. It's here to bring you back into relationship with what you already know, to soften some of the places that may have tightened, to open what may have quietly closed, to let something move. Just listen for what resonates, what feels true in your body, what wants to expand. And let's begin.
Welcome to The Authentic Creative, where we expand our capacity to feel good one deep breath, one bold choice, and maybe a little bit of magic at a time. I'm Siri Baruch Thornton, healer, creative, and lifelong explorer of all things energy, self-expression, and joy. With over 26 years of experience in Reiki, Akashic Records, and transformational breathwork, I've learned that feeling good is not a luxury, it's a practice. And sometimes it's a little messy. This podcast is here to help you trust your intuition, break the rules, the ones that need breaking, and live more fully in your gifts. So give yourself a deep breath, get cozy, and let's dive in.
I'm really delighted because I've been looking forward to this interview. Sarah McCrum is here. She is the author of the powerful and thought-provoking book, Love Money, Money Loves You. Sarah is an author, educator, and business innovator who has spent more than 20 years exploring the deeper relationship between money, value, and human flourishing. Her work bridges business, consciousness, and personal transformation, helping individuals and organizations rethink how we relate to money, generosity, and the flow of value in our lives. Before this work, Sarah studied at Cambridge and worked at BBC Radio Report as a BBC radio reporter, and she later spent many years studying energy work and natural health with Chinese masters. All of these experiences have shaped the unique perspective she brings to money today. In Love Money, Money Loves You, Sarah invites us to explore a radical idea that money may not simply be something we manage or chase, but something we are actually in relationship with. So Sarah, I know you're in England now currently, but you're normally in Australia, you said?
Yes, I live in Australia, but I come from England and my family's here.
Yeah, so thank you for making the time. I really appreciate it. So here it is the middle of the afternoon, so it must be quite late where you are, right?
Yes, it's just after 8:30 in the evening.
Okay, so thank you for doing this in the evening, your time. I want to start with the story behind the book. So I listened to the book on Audible, and I've actually listened one and almost a half times. I've gone back and I'm starting again with it. It's started to change my life in very incremental ways, subtle ways, but those seismic shifts happen from those little subtle shifts from hearing something again. The piece where you talk about in your bio about generosity, I noticed that that's something that has shifted because I've always had a generous heart, but sometimes I can feel contracted in my feeling of can I be generous with my money? And so in being in relationship with money, just that invitation, that reminder of it needs to flow. We need to pour it out. It feels good. And then it's going to come back in like the ebb and flow of the ocean. As you say in the beginning of your book, and clearly my experience of it is as someone who also channels and teaches Akashic record reading, your book is clearly channeled.
Yes.
It feels very much like a transmission. And of course, that makes so much sense because you have all this energy work training with Chinese masters. I love the fact that you're bringing and bridging together the spiritual, the energetics, God, if you will, whatever that is for people, that source energy. And something that's so first chakra, that's so grounding, as we call materialistic. But what you're really saying is this is an energy, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'm going to ask you What was happening, Sarah, in your life that led you to begin asking this question? What does money want to say to us as if it's its own being? What had you start to ask that question?
It wasn't actually me who asked the question, funnily enough. I'd just experienced a business failure coming out of the 2008 recession. It was 2010, and we'd sort of limped along. And finally, we had to close the business, which is a very difficult and painful situation. And I was given a book which was called How to Become a Money Magnet. This was at a time where I had zero money. I couldn't even pay my rent, literally, just after we'd closed. And the book had questions in it. And one of the questions was, what would money like to say to you? And for me, it was probably a bit of a weird question, really. It wasn't something that I was thinking about. But what happened is I was journaling, and so I just sort of put my pen on the paper, and my pen actually really started writing for me.
Yeah.
It was very pure channeling, in a sense that the words flowed through my pen. I wasn't in any kind of altered state. I was watching words come out of the end. And the first thing it said was, I would like to tell you to love me.
Mm.
And that was so different from anything that I'd ever heard before in relation to money. Definitely, it's not a British kind of approach to money to talk about loving it. So I carried on writing, and what came out was so beautiful, actually. It was so touching. This was the first time I wrote. And then I just sat down every day and sort of said, well, money, what would you like to say to me today? I didn't ask questions, funnily enough, beyond that. I always asked the same thing, just what would you like to share with me today? And I wrote the whole book, Love Money, Money Loves You. It's just a collection of all the writings, all the messages that money gave me. I didn't realize I was writing a book. I figured that out way later.
Wow.
I sat there and money spoke through my pen, and I wrote it down.
When you were channeling this and you said you didn't think it was going to be a book, did you have this inkling of, I want to share this with other people? It's so valuable. I can tell this is a message for beyond me.
About probably 2/3 of the way through, it dawned on me. It's like, oh, something like you just said, actually, this isn't just for you, Sarah. This is something bigger. I'd read Conversations with God,
Yeah.
and I felt like, oh, this is a bit similar. If I was Neil Donald Walsh, I would be getting this published all over the world. I wasn't Neil Donald Walsh. I didn't really know what to do with it, actually. Didn't start it off in the way that he did, but I realized this does need to be shared. So I went through the process of self-publishing. I had no money. I couldn't afford to do anything, but I got it self-published, and that was the beginning.
Did you have any moments of feeling shy about sharing these transmissions?
Yes, I had big moments. I was still training with one of my Chinese masters at that time, and she didn't want any publicity. So she actually asked me not to publish it. But by that time, I'd thought, well, this has to be published. Originally, I published it under a different name. I called myself Joy Prospero, which is a beautiful name.
Yeah, like prosperous, like joyfully prosperous.
Yes, exactly. Joyful prosperity.
Yeah.
I didn't tell anybody. Part of the reason for that was there must be some old Chinese teaching that channeling is dangerous, or
Sure.
it's more in the East, I think, than in the West. I know what she was talking about, but she never told us what to do about that. So I had this kind of fear, like, I've channeled this book, and I kind of got the feeling people die if they don't follow the messages when they channel stuff, or something like that. Just vague Chinese mastery sort of stuff. And so rather than run the risk of doing it all wrong, I put it aside to begin with. I left her and moved to Australia with my husband, and we had no money, and we had to start from the beginning. We didn't know anyone in Australia. That was when I really discovered my book and started using it, and it became my source for paying the bills in Australia and getting a business going and getting a new life started. I don't think I could have done it without the book.
I'm so curious. So one piece I want to share is I have come across with teaching Akashic record reading and also with Reiki, because I've been doing that for 30 years, where even very American Christian backgrounds that people can be really spooked by anything where there's no middleman and where you're directly...
Or no modality. That's the other thing that can come up as well. It's something that doesn't have kind of like a name and a package. It's just pure information.
Yeah, it's quite mysterious, and so therefore it's unknown, so therefore it's scary and
Yep.
uncontrollable and powerful. And yeah, and I think we have this relationship with power, and that's kind of goes along with money and money energies, our
Yep.
fear of our own power, because how
Totally.
powerful were you to be able to channel this with no sort of specific, as you said, preparations, but it sounds like you were doing preparations with this Chinese master. That
I
was
was
sort
very
of,
well prepared. In many
yeah,
ways, I
like,
was very well prepared because I was able, the way that I had been taught to teach was through energy transmission. That's what the Chinese teach. Most places you don't learn energy transmission. She didn't teach us that specifically. She did it. And my other Chinese master talked about heart to heart transmission. But of course, you learn it because you're in that energy field. So when I was teaching, I was already very familiar with energy transmission, and I was essentially, you could say, channeling. You can use different words, but essentially I was doing it. So I was well prepared, actually, but I didn't expect to write. That was
yeah.
a real surprise. And the other thing that was amazing for me is you can look at the notebooks that I wrote it in, because it was all written
Mhm.
by hand. There are no crossings out. There are no
Ah,
mistakes, which is really, for me, still to this day, I find it extraordinary.
so it's all a first draft,
It's completely, I barely edited a
unfiltered.
single word in the book.
Amazing. That's incredible. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not like normal. Yeah, for
not
sure.
normal. No, I don't think it's
Yeah,
definitely not normal for me. And
yeah.
now I realize I can be in that space and do it. I don't do it all the time, but yeah, it happened just like that.
So, question, when you're talking about transmission, are we opening the heart? Are we opening the crown? Are we doing both? Are we consciously opening ourselves in this way? Are there symbols and mantras? Or is it just an intention that you had? Like, I want to channel this and then I allow for it?
In terms of writing the book itself, it happened.
Yeah.
It happened in terms of my broader experience now of doing much more energy transmission. I would say, yes, it's about opening. But for me, what I learned is you can channel from kind of like outside,
Mm-hmm.
from somewhere in the universe, some
Mm-hmm.
external source, let's
Mm-hmm.
say. But what I really learned in the end, the way that works very well for me, is to channel more from the depths of my being in a way that connects. It connects all the way through. I found that to be much more powerful. That book was
Wow.
definitely, I was channeling the energy of money, pure and simple. But now I don't usually do it that way. I let it come up from the depths of me.
That is fascinating. Okay, so Elizabeth Gilbert in her big magic book talks about that there's sort of these ideas that are floating around in the universe, and that if we're ready and we're the writer and we're putting the pen to the paper or the typewriter, whatever, that it can come through us, and then it can also, if we put it down, come through someone else. And then that's how sometimes you get two people writing the same thing at the same time. Interesting how you're talking about tapping into the depths of your inner knowing, right? Like your inner being, like it was in your bones. I feel like you're saying that this is a moment where this energy of money was looking for someone to be willing, and
I actually think,
you were willing.
yeah, exactly what Elizabeth Gilbert wrote about. I think that's what was happening. I suspect that there were multiple people on the planet that the energy of money wanted to share something with us as human
Mhm.
beings, to evolve our relationship with it. It must be very, it doesn't get frustrated exactly because it's energy, but
Mhm.
there's no question that there's a joy and a fulfillment for that energy when we are joyful and fulfilled by our wishes. And most people struggle so much with it. It's like, oh, it's quite heavy. It's an energy, it will do what its job is. It will do its job anyway, and it's not an emotional energy. But I know that there's a different circulation when we're experiencing that kind of lightness and joyfulness around money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like if you were thinking of water wanting to flow and you had a dam that was stopped up because it's not open, it's not receiving, it's not joyful, as opposed to something that's free flowing, the water is going to enjoy being able to stretch out and
right.
free flow
And
in that
move.
way.
It's exactly
Oh.
like that. The other books were written around the same time. I received it in the way that I received it. I know of one other person who wrote a book all about money, but it was very much about millionaire mindset kind of thing. I'm
Yeah.
sure there were others around the same time because there's so much good education about money now
Hmm.
that wasn't available. But I just happened to pick up this really special voice of money itself communicating very directly with a kind of innocence. That's what I love about it, the simplicity and the innocence of it. Anybody can understand it. There's nothing clever about it.
Okay, so you say this, and also my experience, especially as we get deeper into the book, is that they are quite strict in
Yes.
there's a tough love.
Yep.
And there's also, now this is just my personal experience, sort of a denseness to some of the concepts and a lot of with great power comes great responsibility kind of energy. That's why I'm listening to it again
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like, okay, there's a lot here. Yes, there's simple concepts, and especially in the beginning, there's simplicity to it. Also, it's like, hey, you got to get on your dharma, like this responsibility aspect of giving and being dedicated to something that's going to improve the world. I think that's an interesting aspect that not all money books have, is
Yes.
that it's not personal, like, hey, just get money, get rich, enjoy your money, have fun. It's like, yes, have fun, play, and also get on board with what's your mission here?
Yeah, it's a very strong part. It says at one point in the book that our relationship with money is evolving. And so to me, that's the evolutionary part, if you like. There was a time when it was like, get the house, get the car, get the whatever, put up your vision board.
Yeah.
That's changing. That's really changing. And we can see that in the world. We can see that the world is pushing for that change. We're looking for more integrity and we're looking for more of the fulfillment of doing something that makes life better.
Yeah, that's the word I was just thinking is fulfillment, purpose. It's empty when we just do something for money's sake, just to have more money. What's the point of that? Once our needs are covered, beyond that, we're not going to get this huge jump in serotonin or this huge fulfillment beyond having your survival needs met, your core base chakra needs met. You're not going to have this huge jump between making 1 million and making 10 million, for example. You're not going to be that much happier.
Yep.
So it's empty just to get rich for getting rich's sake. We're looking for, as you just said, fulfillment, purpose. We want a quality of life. We want freedom with our life.
Yeah, we've seen people who make a lot of money and they're not happy.
Mm-hmm.
We know that socially, but we ignore it because we're also encouraged to focus on money as being the sole representation of wealth. True wealth, which is a much more expanded experience, which is not just about money.
Yeah.
And it must include well-being. I look at other currencies in addition to money. Everybody's different in terms of what they want. So it might be that that person who's making 10 million, they want to invest in something that's really meaningful to them. And then they need 10 million or 100 million. There's nothing wrong with making a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the point is, which I think you're pointing to, is making money for the sake of money doesn't bring fulfillment. If you make money because you're providing so much service to the world, the book's a lot about service or about contributing, and you're rewarded for that, and then you can do something with that money that gives you power to do something with that money. That's a very different story. For me, it has radically changed the work that I do, my expectations of myself, because you're absolutely right that actually that book will take you deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And now, 16 years since I first started writing, the things that I'm doing now, all of it's in the book, but I could never have even imagined that when I wrote
that.
it.
I love
the
that.
transmission just keeps refreshing itself.
That's beautiful. Like the more you dip something in the blue dye, the deeper the blue dye gets.
Yeah.
And we want that. One thing you just reminded me of is early on in the book, you talk about decide a certain amount of money that you would like to play with to receive. And it can be whatever you want it to be. You say, don't have it be so huge of a number that you're just not even going to be able to
It doesn't work.
fathom it, but also you want to stretch maybe a little bit so that you can see this as proof of something that's happening, that you're exercising this muscle,
Yep.
and just ask. And if you don't get it that day, ask again, try again. And it's this sort of, in the tarot deck, they have the card of the fool, and it's sort of like, be in this, like you said earlier, innocence, in this awe, this wonder. If you can, and I think that is about opening, that openness, that beginner's mind of seeing how much you can drop of your programming.
Yep, absolutely. And I regularly get emails from people. I got one just a couple of days ago of a woman. She said she's extremely well educated, very intelligent, very capable, and has always struggled with money. She read the book, she read that chapter, and she decided to ask for 5,000 euros today. At the end of the day, she looked in her English bank account and there was nothing there. And she looked in her Swiss bank account and there was 5,000 euros sitting in there that hadn't been there earlier.
Wow.
Now, I also get emails from people for whom it hasn't worked, and they tend to be a bit more serious about it and a bit more heady. And it doesn't really work when you're heady. We have to learn how to find that innocence. But it's quite remarkable what does happen. And for me, when I can be in that kind of just almost like throwaway, just ask and not put any charge around it.
Yeah.
That's where things happen the most easily for me.
Yeah, it feels like a neutrality almost. It's so interesting because when we wish for things, we tend to kind of keep asking. And you say, don't keep asking and asking and asking. And because when you're doing that, you're not believing that once is enough. And you're kind of
like you don't really think
overriding.
anyone's listening to you. But the energy of money hears everything. It's like its duty. I see it as like lots of beings, really. You could imagine it like a whole bureaucracy of beings in some other dimension.
Yeah, sure.
Yes. And their job, literally their job, is to listen to the wishes of human beings and to deliver what we're actually wishing for, which includes when we say things like, well, I'll never be able to pay for this, or I never have enough money. That's also a wish, is to never have enough money. And they do have to deliver that too, which they don't like much. They're very strict, very, very strict in terms of their duty to human beings, much more than we are to them.
Well, I did share with my husband after I heard that piece from the book, just so you know, every time you're worrying or every time you're contracted in your thoughts, you're canceling all of your prayers. And he knows that, and we know that. And also, it's helpful confirmation to realize this worry or anxiety is literally doing a detriment. You're really, really, truly not helping yourself. And evidence for just to relax and to enjoy and to have fun and to be easy. It's not just a concept. What you're saying is, this is math. It's math.
And the other thing that's really important is what people will sometimes do then when they've been worrying or they're stressed about money, and then they realize, oh, that's making things worse. And then they'll beat themselves up for it and make it even worse. And that's really important also, to let go of that. I had to learn how to be really kind to myself. And when I started to beat myself up, it's like, no, Sarah, you're not supposed to know all of this already. If you don't know something already, if you're just learning, if you're having a new experience, that's fine. It's like being a small child. You don't punish a small child when they're learning to walk. You encourage them to walk. It really took me quite a lot of inner discipline to be that kind to myself. That whenever I wanted to say, oh, you're doing it wrong. Oh, there's something wrong with you. It's so easy to go there. There's something wrong with me. I'm so blocked. I'm getting in the way. Make it all about me. It's like, be kind, Sarah. It's okay. You're learning something. You're going somewhere you've never been before, and it's fine.
So for women that are 40, 50, 60, 70 and beyond, or men, when we're learning these newer concepts or relearning these concepts, and we feel like we're kind of, quotes, getting it wrong, is there a grieving process of all the years that I could have enjoyed this, or I could have had more, or it could have been easier?
I don't think so. Some people sometimes say that, but we can, for any part of life, we could wish we'd known something different when we were younger. But it doesn't help. That's just another way of hurting yourself, really. So you are where you are. Who knows how you got to where you are? One of the things that's been enormously helpful for me is understanding a bit more about past lives, recognizing that everybody's got here from all kinds of mixed histories. So maybe, I'm running the similar business to you, and we might have quite different results, but I learned not to judge myself for that, because who knows what I'm working on, what you're working on at a spiritual level and at a soul level and at a life level. So I just learned not to judge anybody for where they are, but just see it, and including myself. And then let's see how we can make progress. How can I make life better in a way that I want to? How can you make your life better in a way that you want to? That's really the essence of the book. It's like, forget all this comparisons and judgments and if only and I should. Just let it go. You're here and you want to go there. Let's do it.
Yeah, that's good. I'm curious, you said a few times when I started this interview that you had nothing and you guys moved to Australia and you had nothing. What was the business that shut down when you said you had nothing before the book? What was that?
It was a big centre in London. It was 8,500 square feet. Beautiful kind of corporate-y feng shuied premises where we used to run. It was one of the funkiest, most innovative event centers in London, because all the rooms were feng shuied. We had a wall of water and glass floor with seashells, and in a
Wow.
water zone that gave people water energy, Chinese 5 elements. We had a fire zone where literally when you walked into the room, it was warmer than everywhere else because there was so much fire energy in it. It was an extraordinary place.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then we
Okay.
used to run energy sessions. We provided energy for people who were coming to these events, and they would go to events where they would normally be exhausted at the end of the day, and they'd come out full of energy at the end of the day.
Amazing.
It was an amazing thing that we were doing, but the rent was very high. And when the recession hit, companies stopped. We lost 95% of our business in a couple of weeks, and it took 2 years to recover. We just couldn't recover in time.
Right. Got it. Well, I'm so sorry because that sounds so amazing. You now are in a different place financially than you were then, I'm imagining,
Yes. Yeah.
because of these transmissions, I'm
Yeah.
imagining. And so, what has that journey been like for you following your own book?
Well, I laugh because when I started following my book, I'd almost forgotten about it. It was about 1.5 years or something after I'd published it. And I'd put it aside. We had a little tiny bit of money when we came to Australia, enough to get the cheapest car we could get and put a deposit on somewhere to live. That was on a rental, and live for a few weeks. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I've got to start making money within 2 weeks to be able to pay for our expenses, to pay our rent. I didn't know anybody, but I got invited to a women's business lunch. It's quite a funny story in a way. And I won the door prize. Of course, I was so open. I so needed a result. And it turned out to be a psychic reading.
Oh,
It was quite intriguing. It was in the back of the local mystical bookshop. And I went there and got this psychic reading. And 3/4 of the way through, I mentioned my book by chance. And she just jumped on it. She said, "That's it, Sarah. You have to teach that." And somehow she brought it back to my attention. And I started to really engage with it. And literally, the number of times that the knowledge in that book helped me to pay the rent, because I knew I just had to pay the rent on time. I'd been in a place where I couldn't pay the rent when the business closed. I didn't want to go back there. So I knew I had to get the things that we needed. And in the early days, it was tough. It was really tough, but we did it over and over and over and over again. I got what we needed. I didn't have to go and get a job. I didn't have to do all the sensible things that people would say I should have done. We made it on the book. And I used to struggle. Sometimes I fought with myself, like, what if this isn't true? It's just a book. It's channeled information. How do you even know that it's true? And I struggled in my mind.
okay.
What I found with that, and I think this is really significant, is that I always came out of those struggles saying, I want it to be true. I want life to be like this. I don't want life to be like that. You should get a job. You should do this. You should do that. You should do the other, because blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, what I've written in this book, this is beautiful. This makes sense to me as a sensitive person. I understand the energy of the book. And so at one level, I learned that if you want something to be true, it is.
Mm. Okay, that's beautiful. And I'm curious, you said, I didn't get a job, but you were using the principles in the book. What are a few examples of how money came through? Was it just you inherited something,
No,
or what
no,
was
it wasn't like that.
happening? How was this money coming through specifically?
I called somebody. I looked online to see if there was anyone I could talk to in the area we'd moved to who could sort of just give me an in. And I found somebody and I thought she might be interesting. She was into healing and stuff. She had a bit of an online profile. I called her. She's a woman who never answers her phone to strangers, and she picked
Hmm.
up the phone. I
Hmm.
offered her 3 free sessions, the sort of thing she would probably never normally do. And she came and she did them. And she solved an enormous problem that she'd had. Her grandson had died a few years earlier, and she'd never been able to get over the grief.
Wow.
And I can still remember the moment where I saw it was like some entity or something just flew out of the window, and she was free of it. So she, at this business lunch, told everybody I was amazing.
Mm.
And things like that happened that shouldn't really have happened. I remember one time when it was very early on and I didn't have enough to pay the rent, and we'd bought the wrong fridge. It was too noisy. And because I record things a lot, I don't like to have a noisy fridge. So I was trying to sell it online for $300, and the $300 I needed to pay the rent that week. And I
Hmm.
sat down. I was so worried about it that I sat down one day. I just sat and said, okay, I'm just going to sit here and relax. I just relaxed and relaxed and relaxed until I felt really, really great. And this guy called me and says, I want your fridge. I'm bringing $300 in cash. Can I get it now? And he
Hmm.
arrived half an hour later. He didn't even look at the fridge, just gave me the money, took it. So those were the kind of little stories. Everybody has stories like this. But when you take notice of them and notice what's happening, it's like, oh, this is how life is working, actually. And then another time, I saw this guy on stage who was doing a presentation. And the way he spoke, he was promoting a course, and it was going to cost $8,000, which at that time was a lot of money. I was
Hmm.
still struggling, just make sure we pay the rent and feed ourselves. And I knew that I had to do that course. I had to. There was something in me. And the next day, one of my clients called me. She already had a stack of private sessions that she'd paid for. And she said, I want to buy more private sessions with you. She actually said she wanted to buy $5,000 worth. She already had $1,000 worth. I refused to take that full amount, which I should have probably done it. She immediately did that. And then
Wow.
we were getting really close. I hadn't bought the tickets. I didn't have enough money. I booked a place, and it was a few days away, and somebody took us to visit somebody. He was very wealthy. He was in a hole in his life. And at the end of the stay there, he said, can I do some private sessions with you? And I sold him a $5,000 package to this complete stranger. And it was 2 days before we were due to leave. So these kinds of crazy stories, running out of money in America. We were traveling in America and having to go and tell our host that I couldn't pay the bill that night, and then having the money the next morning in my bank account and being able to pay it.
Wow.
Standing on a station in Europe where my credit card had failed completely, in another station in another part of Europe. And it was 11 o'clock at night. The train was about to go. And my husband and I just smiled and smiled and smiled. And the card went through once and paid for our tickets. Never worked again. Hadn't worked before.
Wow.
Just
Wow.
these crazy things over and over again. In the meantime, I was building a business and doing all the sensible things you do. I don't live my life on miracles, actually.
Hmm.
I live my life on building a business. But there were so many things that proved to me that it is true.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's so many things that required so much trust on
Yeah.
your behalf and so much openness and relaxation and not getting in your own way. And then also, you're talking about just building foundationally in a logical, linear way as well, not just always kind of hoping on a wing and a prayer.
Yeah.
But you talked about being of service, giving 3 sessions for free. A lot of times, people who were in the position that you were in wouldn't feel generous enough to give 3 sessions away for free. They'd be like, no, I have to get paid for every single little thing I do. Because I've been in those places where things feel tighter. And so I don't necessarily give things away for free. It's interesting that you were willing to and you decided to and you felt resourced in some way to give those sessions for free. And then because you were being of service and you were answering the call of what was needed by the universe, you were provided for. And so you're really held. You really keep experiencing this proof of being held.
Yeah. It was interesting how that worked, because this woman who had the 3 free sessions I gave first of all, I felt like somebody needs to know what I'm doing, because I'd come from this Chinese master thing. No one was doing stuff like I did anyway. And it told me to go to this lunch. She told me to give another 3 sessions away for free as a door prize. So I won the door prize, but I also gave a door prize.
Okay.
She told everybody I was amazing. Somebody else won it. And at the next lunch, she told everybody I was amazing. And in the meantime, the people who are probably not the stars of the women's business group, but more the quieter ones, thought, oh, maybe I'll book some sessions with this person who they say is amazing.
Yeah.
And so people started booking 1 or 2 sessions at a time. And that's how I paid the rent. I charged twice as much as anybody else charged. That's the other thing I did.
Interesting.
Well trained by my Chinese master. She said, don't be cheap.
Double your prices.
$100, so I charged $200 and people paid it.
Okay. Did you always have this ability to know your worth and your value and to be able to stand in that? Not feel like somehow an imposter or this isn't fair, that whole thing we can get up in our head about.
I don't think I had much sense of that. My Chinese master, the second one, she charged a lot for what she did. And she did put that message into us, and also don't be like everybody else. There were times when I thought, am I right to do this? But actually, it was such a good decision that I made at that time, because first of all, I only needed half the number of clients. And given that it's not that easy to have lots of clients, it did take the pressure off. 2.5 client sessions paid the rent every week at that time. That's actually quite significant because it was sort of doable.
Okay, and I'm also curious, Sarah, what were the sessions composed of? And do you still do these sessions? What were you doing?
Well, I don't do one-on-one sessions very much now. I do a little bit. I'm trained to transmit energy. I'm trained to talk about energy and know that it heals things. So there's not a lot of doing that's happening. People come and they tell you what's going on, which is usually what's wrong with them. And at that point, I was really trained just talk about energy and then things get better. And it does. It works like that. I have some more, really the foundation of what I do still to this day is talk about energy. But because I've been doing it for a long time now, people come along and they ask questions about things and we talk, and I know that it'll change because I know it's like I can feel it when it changes. I'm there to help them change their energy. I don't do that. The energy does it. I open a space where they can receive the energy that they need. They're not getting it from me. I don't know what they need. I have no clue really, but I know how to recognize what's going on, and I trust it. I just really trust it.
Yeah, I feel like that's a theme, is this trust. And so the trust, though, is built on proof of little experience after little experience after big experience again and again. Yeah, it wasn't just like naturally there.
And now I have to prove it again. Now I'm looking to build bigger experiences than I ever have before. So again, I have to go to that place of a new level of trust.
Yeah.
I'm building another business, which is far, far bigger than anything that I've ever done before.
Okay.
Because that's what happens. You talked earlier about responsibility.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right that as you become more capable with money, you take on more responsibility. You actually take on bigger problems. So people always think when I have money, all my problems will go away. It's like, no, you actually have the capacity now to take on bigger problems.
Yeah.
That it's not so much now that it's my problem. It's that I can transfer all that energy that used to be tied up with sorting out my problems to sorting out bigger problems.
The greater good.
For the greater good, problems that need to be solved in the world.
That's great. Share about that project.
I can share about it.
If you want to.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And that also comes out of a failure as well. So the last 7 years, I was working with somebody. We were trying to build a business that was about making regenerative farming and restoration of nature investable at scale.
Okay.
Ultimately, that failed for reasons that I don't really need to go into. But out of that failure came a new business. It's called Integrity Now. It's about increasing trust in business. And how do you increase trust in business? You do it by growing your integrity, because the more integrity you have, the more people trust you.
Yeah.
And so we've built something that's called the integrity system. I'm working with somebody who's a tech entrepreneur, very experienced. We're building this integrity system that enables businesses to have more integrity for real. It's not a superficial thing. That builds trust, which makes them more investable. It makes them operate better, they can make more money, it reduces risk, it does all kinds of important things in business. And my real love is nature and people. How do we make it so that we can invest in nature with trust and integrity? Because we need to do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because the word integrity is about wholeness. And I see you doing this with your hands, creating this wholeness, this roundness. And what's interesting is wholeness and integrity. It's about what I'm also seeing when you're speaking is structure, is foundation.
Yes.
And so if the integrity of, like, if you were an architect, is like, if the integrity of these foundational pillars are there, then we can build something that's going to last.
Absolutely.
And that is the trust. Yeah.
Integrity, I see it with 3 layers. So there's the simple level of integrity is I do what I say I'm going to do.
Right.
So you can trust me that I'll do the things I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And that's one part of is built into our integrity system. Are we sticking to our commitments? That's really important. The next piece is I am aligned with my purpose and my principles and my values. I'm not doing things that are out of alignment with what I stand for. That's a really important layer of integrity. That's another piece that's built into the technology. It constantly monitors whether we're aligned with our purpose and our core promise and our strategy and our structure. And then there's the wholeness, as you described. My hands do that so naturally, which requires exactly what you're saying. It actually requires us to look at how all the pieces of the business fit together to see if that wholeness is there that actually serves the greater good. It doesn't just serve the narrow interests of the business. It's a really interesting thing to work with.
Yeah, it's great. It's definitely big concept, big vision, big responsibility. And interesting that the word trust and integrity are right there as the core of it. Makes so much sense. I'm so glad that you're doing this purposeful work, that you're on your mission and that you've accepted the next call.
Yes, that's where I needed to make the decision. Did I channel ideas, or these things come to me, these opportunities, and things open up somewhere inside me like, well, this could be possible, that could be possible. And I have a moment where I have to say, okay, I'm going to step into that, or no, I'm too small. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not enough. I can't. I don't have the experience. I'm not that kind of person. Like, I have all of those reasons inside me for not doing it.
Yeah.
The thing my book and my experience gave me was little by little a backbone that enabled me to say, yes, I'm too small. Yes, I'm not enough. Yes, I don't have it. And I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to grow.
Yeah. Feel the fear and do it anyway. Yeah, that's so interesting because I've been really playing around with the energy of fear and just noticing. We tell our kids, oh, so you were scared to do that thing and then you did it. And how was it? And you remember that you actually enjoyed it afterwards, and making note of that. So I've been doing that with myself. Oh, do you remember how when you went to the gym yesterday and you were so scared and then you really felt good about yourself after? Just making note of, oh, right. So it's okay to be scared. Just be with the fear. Sarah, I really appreciate you transmitting the books that you've transmitted, because it's not just the one book, you've written other books. I really appreciate you being so open-hearted with the way that your process works. There's a lot more good that your book is going to continue to do in the world. A girlfriend of mine recommended it to me. We're listening to it together, talking about it together. There's bigger and bigger circles that can embrace this. If people are curious about anything that we talked about, if they're wanting to ask you questions or get in touch with your work, where are the touch points for you?
The best place is my website, which is sarahmccrum.com. That's my name. That's the easiest place to find out what's going on. You can email me from there. You can find out about courses and other things that I do there.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Guys, thank you for coming on this beautiful journey. I prepare with questions and then I don't pay any attention to them. And I just got to be with you. That was such a treat to get to just be with you. So thank you for going on that ride with me and just playing with me today. Guys, keep expanding your capacity to feel good, one breath at a time. Loving you. See you soon. Bye for now.
Hello, friend. What I am taking from this conversation is how much our relationship with money is actually a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. That is not just about strategy or effort, but about openness, trust, and the willingness to stay with ourselves even when fear comes up. We talked about how generosity creates flow, how contraction can quietly block what we are asking for, and how being in integrity with what we say, what we value, and what we are here to do changes everything. And maybe most importantly, that as we grow in our capacity to receive, we are also growing in our capacity to contribute. So wherever this conversation met you, I invite you to stay with it, to keep noticing, keep softening, keep expanding your capacity to feel good. If you're someone who does a lot, holds a lot, and is used to moving through life by thinking your way forward, I want to offer you a different kind of space. My 3-month private container is a place where you get to come out of holding everything together. Through transformational breathwork infused with Reiki, we work directly with your body where stress, emotion, and long-held patterns live. This work happens in real time. Over the course of 3 months, your nervous system has space to settle. What has been held can begin to move. What has felt tight can soften. You are guided, supported, and met exactly where you are, while also being gently expanded into what is possible for you. There's room here for deep unwinding, clearer insight, and a more natural way of being in your life that does not require so much effort. If you are feeling the pull toward this kind of support, you can reach out to me directly or learn more at sageandblushwellness.com.
And if today's conversation stirred something in you, here are a few ways we can go deeper together. So the Authentic Creative Podcast, where you are now, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss more conversations like this. And if you loved this one, share it with a friend about that. One-on-one work for private Reiki, breathwork, Akashic sessions where we can go right into your unique medicine. You can connect with me. Once again, thank you for being here, for listening, for expanding your capacity to feel good alongside me. I'm sending you love and I can't wait to connect again soon. Loving you.